Taehyun Kim fidgeted with his diplomatic badge as he followed the Xerixian protocol officer through the ornate halls. The alien moved with a fluid grace that made Taehyun feel clumsy by comparison. His palms were sweaty. This was supposed to be Ambassador Park's job, not his. "Straighten your tie," whispered Juwon, his assistant. "First impressions matter." The walls around them pulsed with soft blue light. Taehyun had been on Xerix for 3 months, but the living architecture still amazed him. The building itself seemed to breathe. "I shouldn't be here," Taehyun muttered. "I'm just a junior liaison. Ambassador Park has that stomach bug. You're the next highest-ranking human. Just follow the briefing notes. This is a simple cultural exchange ceremony." The Xerixian protocol officer, Taehyun thought her name was Esh, clicked her mandibles in what he hoped was approval. Her translator device spoke in a flat tone. "The Queen awaits. This honor brings great status to Earth Clan." They entered a vast circular chamber. At least 30 Xerixians stood in a perfect circle, their scale colors shifting in complex patterns. In the center stood Queen Korra. Taehyun had only seen her in videos. They didn't capture her presence. She towered over her subjects, nearly 7 feet tall. Her scales shimmered with royal purple and gold. The 6 slim appendages that Xerixians used as both arms and sensory organs moved with hypnotic grace. "Remember, just mirror Queen Korra's movements," Juwon whispered before stepping back to join the other observers. Taehyun swallowed hard and approached the circle. The assembled Xerixians parted to let him through. Their compound eyes followed his every move. Queen Korra spoke, her voice musical yet alien. His earpiece translator struggled to keep up. "We welcome Earth Diplomatic Extension to sacred exchange of cultural knowledge sharing." Taehyun bowed as he'd been instructed. "The people of Earth are honored by your welcome, Your Majesty." The Queen's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of approval, according to his briefing materials. "Now begins Trust Bond Ceremony." The translator rendered her words. This wasn't in his notes. Taehyun glanced back at Juwon, who gave an encouraging nod. Queen Korra produced a shimmering chalice that seemed made of living metal. She drank from it first, then extended it toward him. Taehyun hesitated only briefly before accepting. The liquid inside was clear with tiny specks of life swirling within it. He took a small sip. It tasted like honey and starlight, if starlight had a flavor. The watching Xerixians made a harmonic humming sound. Next, the Queen presented a crystal that glowed from within. She held it to her forehead briefly before offering it to him. "Accept Essence Stone." With reverence, his translator instructed. Taehyun took the crystal with a bow. It was warm to the touch and seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. He mimicked the Queen's gesture, touching it to his forehead. A strange tingling sensation spread through his body. The humming from the observers grew louder. Queen Korra then began to speak in her language, pausing after each phrase. His translator said, "Repeat the words exactly." Taehyun did his best, stumbling over the alien syllables. The Xerixian language involved clicks and tones his human vocal cords struggled to produce. "I accept life bond connection. Before witnesses, join royal essence. 2 worlds, 1 path, eternal." As he finished the final phrase, the entire chamber erupted. The Xerixian scales flashed in brilliant patterns. Some made high-pitched trilling sounds. Others bowed deeply toward him. Queen Korra's inner eyelids blinked rapidly. All 6 of her limbs moved in complex patterns. His translator remained silent for several seconds, seemingly overwhelmed by the multiple voices. "What just happened?" Taehyun whispered to Juwon, who had rushed to his side. Juwon's face had gone pale. "Sir, according to my translator, you just completed the royal bonding ceremony. You're now Queen Korra's consort." Taehyun's diplomatic smile froze on his face. "I'm her what? Her mate, her husband, essentially." "That's impossible. This was supposed to be a cultural exchange." It seems there was a Miscommunication. The Xerixian officials were approaching now, making gestures of respect toward him. Queen Cora stood watching, her scales now a deep rose color that Tae-yun didn't recognize from his briefings. "Tell them it was a mistake," Tae-yun hissed. "I can't," Juwon whispered urgently. "The treaty with Xerix is very clear. Their royal ceremonies are legally binding under interstellar law. Breaking this bond would be considered a grave insult that could void our entire diplomatic relationship. But I didn't know what I was doing. That may not matter to them." Queen Cora approached. Up close, her alien beauty was even more striking. Her compound eyes reflected Tae-yun's panicked expression back at him in countless tiny images. "Earth bond mate," her translator spoke. "You bring honor to your world. The joining of our peoples begins a new era for both." Tae-yun managed a weak smile as his mind raced. 3 months ago, he had been pushing papers in Seoul. Now he was married to an alien queen. The queen extended one limb toward him in what seemed like an invitation. The watching crowd went silent. Juwon whispered, "Take her hand. It's expected." With no other choice, Tae-yun reached out and gently grasped Queen Cora's limb. It felt cool and smooth against his skin. A subtle electric current seemed to pass between them. "The ceremony is complete," announced the protocol officer. "All hail Queen Cora and royal consort Tae-yun." The chamber filled with alien cheers as Tae-yun wondered how he would explain this to his parents back on Earth. "So," he said faintly to his new wife, "what happens now?" Tae-yun stared at the sleeping chamber with a mix of awe and dread. The royal engineers had worked through the night to create it for him. The bed-like structure floated slightly above the floor, surrounded by a gentle blue glow. The mattress looked soft, filled with something that resembled water but wasn't quite liquid. "It adapts to your body temperature and movement patterns," explained Minji, the human cultural expert assigned to help him. "They studied human sleep cycles to design it." "They did all this in one night?" Tae-yun asked. "The queen ordered it. Her word is absolute here." Tae-yun sighed and sat on the edge of the floating bed. It felt perfect against his tired body. "This whole situation is insane. 1 minute I'm a junior diplomat. The next I'm married to an alien queen." Minji's expression remained professional, but her eyes held sympathy. "Earth Command has been in emergency meetings for 12 hours straight. They're adjusting to the new reality. Can't we just explain this was a misunderstanding?" Tae-yun asked hopefully. "The treaty is clear. Breaking a royal bond without proper cause would violate 7 different clauses. Earth can't afford that diplomatic incident right now," Minji said, "especially with the mining negotiations in progress." Tae-yun fell back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. It pulsed gently with soft light, mimicking the rhythm of his breathing. "So I'm stuck here." "Not stuck. Positioned," Minji corrected. "You're now the highest-ranking human in the Xerixian Empire. Your position gives Earth unprecedented access." "Lucky me," Tae-yun muttered. A soft chime sounded through the room. Minji straightened immediately. "That means the Queen requests your presence at the morning council. We need to get you dressed in the proper attire." The royal attendants brought in clothing that blended Xerixian designs with human comfort needs. The material felt like silk but was stronger than Kevlar. The colors shifted subtly to match Tae-yun's skin tone. "Will there be other humans there?" he asked nervously. "No, you'll be the first human to ever attend the royal council." The council chamber was vast, with walls that curved upward to form a dome. Light filtered in through transparent sections that changed color as the sun moved. Around a crescent-shaped table sat 12 Xerixians, their scales displaying various colors that Tae-yun assumed indicated rank or mood. Queen Cora sat at the center. Her scales shimmered with deeper, richer colors than the others. When Tae-yun entered, all eyes turned to him. The many-faceted compound eyes made it impossible to read their expressions. "The royal consort joins us," announced a Xerixian with blue-green scales. Tae-yun bowed, following Minji's hasty instructions from earlier. "I am honored to be here, though I have much to learn about your customs." His words were translated, and a ripple of mandible clicking spread through the room. Queen Cora's inner eyelids flickered. "Sit," she commanded, indicating a seat that had been placed beside her. It was clearly designed for human anatomy. The council proceeded to discuss matters Taehyun barely understood: water distribution in the Eastern Territories, mineral rights disputes with neighboring systems, security concerns about a faction called the Scale Shedders. Later, after the council members had departed, Queen Cora studied Taehyun curiously. Her compound eyes reflected his image back at him in countless tiny versions. "Your species' respiratory system is inefficient," she noted through the translator. "I observe how much air you must take in. Wasteful." Taehyun wasn't sure how to respond to this critique of human biology. "Perhaps, but we make excellent kimchi," he replied weakly. The Queen's translator paused, then asked, "This kimchi requires explanation." "It's fermented vegetables, a food from my homeland. The bacteria create complex flavors over time. You intentionally allow microorganisms to alter your food before consumption." The Queen's scales rippled in what might have been discussed. "It's delicious," Taehyun defended, "and healthy." The Queen made a gesture he couldn't interpret. Humans are strange, yet interesting. That night, Taehyun couldn't sleep despite the perfect bed. The events of the past 2 days kept replaying in his mind. How had his life changed so dramatically? What would his parents think? His friends? Would he ever return to Earth? A faint sound interrupted his thoughts. Something that didn't belong. A soft scraping against stone, barely audible. Taehyun sat up, listening carefully. There it was again. Years of living in Seoul's busy apartments had trained his ears to pick up subtle noises through thin walls. He slipped out of bed and moved to the door of his chamber. The sound was clearer now. Multiple sets of footsteps moving with deliberate care. Too careful for normal palace staff. Taehyun opened the door a crack and peered into the royal corridor. In the dim light, he saw 3 figures moving toward the Queen's chambers. They weren't wearing the palace uniforms, and they carried what looked like weapons. Heart pounding, Taehyun slipped into the corridor and followed the wall to the emergency communication panel Minji had shown him. He pressed the alert button. The palace alarm system activated instantly. Lights flashed as security barriers slammed down throughout the building. The intruders turned and spotted him. One raised a weapon. Taehyun dove back into his room as energy crackled past him, leaving a scorch mark on the wall. Within minutes, royal guards had captured the assassins. Security footage confirmed they had been heading for the Queen's chamber with lethal intent. Queen Cora summoned Taehyun to her private study afterward. For once, her usual entourage was absent. "You detected the intruders when our own security systems did not," she said. Her scales were shifting through patterns he had never seen before. "Humans have better hearing than Xerixians," Taehyun explained. "We evolved as pursuit predators. We notice small sounds. Perhaps your species has value I did not anticipate," Cora said, her scales flushing a color Taehyun had never seen before, a deep golden rose that seemed to glow from within. "The assassins were Scale Shedders?" Taehyun asked. "Yes. They oppose our treaty with Earth. They oppose change of any kind." The Queen moved closer to him. "They will try again. Then we'll need better security," Taehyun said. "We," the Queen repeated. "You now speak as one with Xerixian interests." Taehyun realized she was right. Somehow, in just 2 days, his perspective had shifted. He might not have chosen this role, but he was in it now. "I do have one request," he said cautiously. "Speak it." "I'd like to have some kimchi imported from Earth. You should try it before judging." The Queen's translator was silent for a moment, then rendered her response. "Acceptable. I will experience this bacteria food of yours." Taehyun smiled. Maybe this accidental marriage had some hope after all. Taehyun took his seat in the royal council chamber with more confidence than he had 3 months ago. The floating chair no longer felt strange. The clicking sounds of Xerixian speech no longer confused him. His translator now caught nuances it had missed before. He glanced at Queen Cora. Her scales shimmered with royal purple, but he noticed the slight darkening at the edges, a sign of concern that most humans would miss. General Dury stood before the council, her military posture rigid. The bony ridge along her head was fully extended, another sign of tension Taehyun had learned to recognize. The Southern Hive is threatening to withdraw from the mineral accords, reported General Dury, scales bristling. They claim we favor Earth interests over their traditional mining rights. Taehyun noticed the tension ripple through the council chamber. After 3 months as royal consort, he'd learned to read Xerixian body language. The subtle shift in scale patterns, the position of secondary limbs, the rate of eyelid blinking, all told a story of worry. Minister Laz, always the most suspicious of humans, clicked her mandibles. Perhaps your mate's presence influences our decisions too heavily, my queen. Taehyun felt the familiar sting of being an outsider, but he had grown used to it. Cora's scales flashed briefly, a warning sign that silenced Laz immediately. The Southern Hive provides 60% of our heavy metals, continued General Dury. Without them, our shipbuilding capacity would be severely limited. Taehyun listened carefully. The politics of Xerix were complex. The planet was divided into regional hives, each with their own interests but united under Queen Cora's leadership. The Southern Hive had always been difficult. Perhaps we could offer them exclusive rights to the Xanthi Basin, suggested Minister Tev. Earth Mining Consortium has already submitted a formal request for those rights, countered Minister Laz. The humans offer better technology in exchange. All eyes turned to Taehyun. They expected him to advocate for Earth's interests. That was why Ambassador Chen had visited him yesterday with a clear message: use his position to secure those mining rights. But Taehyun had seen the ecological impact reports. The Xanthi Basin contained rare plant species found nowhere else on Xerix. Earth's mining methods would destroy them completely. He cleared his throat. Have you considered offering cultural exchange instead of resource rights? Taehyun suggested. The council members blinked in surprise. This was not what they expected from the human consort. Explain, commanded Queen Cora. The Southern Hive is proud of their artistic traditions. Earth universities would value cultural exchanges, art installations, music performances, historical artifacts for study. We could offer exclusive educational partnerships. Minister Laz clicked her mandibles rapidly, the Xerixian equivalent of a scoff. The Southern Hive needs resources, not flattery. With respect, Taehyun continued, what they need is recognition. Their pride is hurt because they feel overlooked. Cultural exchange would give them status without depleting natural resources. The council fell silent, considering his words. Queen Cora's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue-green hue. An interesting perspective, she said finally. Minister Tev, prepare a proposal along these lines. After the council meeting, Taehyun returned to his chambers to find a message waiting from Ambassador Chen. The woman's face appeared on the screen, her expression stern. Consort Kim, we expected your support on the mining rights issue. Earth Command is disappointed by your suggestion of cultural exchange. Remember where your loyalties should lie. Taehyun frowned. He had anticipated this response, but it still troubled him. His position was unique and complicated. He represented Earth in some ways, yet he was also bound to Xerix through his marriage. That evening, as he reviewed reports from both Earth and Xerixian sources, Taehyun discovered something disturbing. Hidden in the technical appendices of Earth Mining Consortium's proposal were plans for extraction methods that went far beyond what they had publicly disclosed. Even more troubling, he found communication logs showing secret meetings between Earth Mining executives and certain Southern Hive officials, meetings that had not been reported to Queen Cora. The implications were clear. Both sides were planning to extract far more resources than either had admitted publicly, and the target was not just the Xanthi Basin, but also the nearby sacred valleys, areas that held religious significance for all Xerixians. Tahian sat back, conflicted. Revealing this would damage Earth's position, yet concealing it would betray Queen Cora's trust and potentially allow massive environmental damage to Xerix. The next morning, he requested a private audience with the Queen. "My Queen," he said carefully, "I've discovered evidence that both Earth Mining Consortium and Hive leadership are planning unauthorized extraction in the sacred valleys." Queen Cora's compound eyes narrowed. The chamber temperature seemed to drop several degrees. "Bring me this evidence." Taeyeon handed over the data crystal he had prepared. The Earth Consortium is using the official negotiations as cover for their real plans, and they've bribed officials in the Southern Hive to cooperate. The Queen inserted the crystal into her personal data reader. As she reviewed the evidence, her scales darkened to a deep indigo, a color Taeyeon had learned indicated controlled anger. "The sacred valleys are the birthplace of our species," she said finally. "To mine them is sacrilege." "I know," Taeyeon said softly. "You risk much by bringing this to me. Earth Command will not be pleased." "Probably not." Queen Cora studied him with all four of her primary eyes. "Ambassador Chen has already requested your return to Earth for consultation. I suspect she knows what you've discovered." Taeyeon hadn't known this. A cold feeling settled in his stomach. "What did you tell her?" "That your place is here. With me." The Queen rose from her seat and approached him. "But I must know where your true loyalty lies." Taeyeon Kim. She lowered her head until they were at eye level. Then she did something unprecedented. She touched her forehead to his. Among Xerixians, this was a sacred gesture, one that allowed a limited form of emotional connection. Taeyeon felt a strange tingling sensation as their skin made contact. "You choose Xerix over your homeworld?" she asked, her voice softer than he had ever heard it. Taeyeon closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the moment. 3 months ago, he had been accidentally married to an alien queen. Now he was making a deliberate choice that would shape 2 worlds. "I choose what's right for both," he answered. When they separated, Queen Cora's scales had changed to a warm gold color he had never seen before. "Tomorrow," she said, "we will confront both the Earth Consortium and the Southern Hive together. Prepare yourself, consort. The true test of our union begins now." As he left the royal chamber, Taeyeon realized something had changed. For the first time since the accidental ceremony, he felt like he truly was the Queen's consort, not just in name, but in purpose. The royal palace's central command center hummed with activity. Xerixian officers moved with purpose between monitoring stations. The curved walls displayed orbital views showing 12 Earth vessels that had appeared without warning. Taeyeon stood beside Queen Cora, watching the screens with growing concern. The confrontation with the Earth Mining Consortium and Southern Hive leaders had happened just 3 days ago. Both parties had left the negotiations angry when their secret plans were exposed. "Earth ships entering orbit," announced the security minister, her scales pulsing with alarm colors. They claimed to be a diplomatic security force for their embassy. Taeyeon studied the ship's formations. His 2 years in Earth's diplomatic security service had taught him enough about military deployments. "Those aren't standard embassy protection vessels," he said quietly to Cora. "That's the 5th Fleet's Rapid Response Group." "Explain," the Queen demanded. "They're responding to the mining dispute," Taeyeon said. "Those ships carry ground troops and tactical weapons. This is a show of force." General Dury's bony ridge flared fully, a sign of battle readiness. "Then we prepare for conflict. I can have planetary defenses active within 1 hour." The command center grew tense. Taeyeon could see the Xerixian military officers already moving to battle stations. The screen showed Xerixian defense platforms powering up around the planet. "No," Taeyeon said firmly, surprising himself with his own authority. The Xerixian officers paused, looking to their queen. "No, General Dury's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Let me speak to them," Taehyun continued. "I understand how humans think. This is a negotiation tactic, not an invasion force. If they wanted war, they would have brought their heavy carriers." The security minister clicked her mandibles skeptically. "They have ignored our hailing signals." "Because they want us nervous," Taehyun explained. "They want us to make the first aggressive move so they can justify escalation. It's standard Earth tactics." Queen Korra watched him with an unreadable expression. Her compound eyes reflected the orbital displays, making them seem to float within her gaze. "You would negotiate against your own kind?" she asked. The question hung in the air. 6 months ago, Taehyun would have hesitated. But now, looking around at the Xerixian officers, many of whom he had come to know personally, the answer came naturally. "My home is here now," he realized as he said it. A ripple of color changes passed through the watching Xerixians. Queen Korra's scales shifted to a deep purple with gold flecks, a royal color pattern he had rarely seen. "Prepare a direct communication channel," she commanded. "Consort Taehyun will speak with the Earth forces." Within minutes, the main screen showed the stern face of Admiral Hayes, commander of Earth's Fifth Fleet. "Taehyun Kim," the admiral said, deliberately using his Earth name and ignoring his royal title. "Earth Command has sent us to ensure the safety of human interests on Xerix. You will facilitate our landing at the embassy compound." Taehyun straightened his posture, conscious of the watching Xerixians. "Admiral Hayes, I speak as Royal Consort of Xerix. Your unannounced arrival with military vessels violates 3 separate provisions of the Earth-Xerix Treaty." The Admiral's expression hardened. "We're responding to credible threats against Earth personnel." "Then you should have requested permission through proper diplomatic channels," Taehyun countered. "Your current approach could be interpreted as hostile." "We're not asking permission, Consort Kim. We're informing you of our arrival." Taehyun felt Queen Korra's presence beside him. Without looking away from the screen, he sensed her scales shifting color with controlled anger. "Admiral," Taehyun said calmly, "Xerixian defense systems are currently tracking your vessels. Before this situation escalates, I suggest we pursue a more productive path." For the next hour, Taehyun negotiated with the admiral. He offered a compromise. Earth could station 2 ships in orbit instead of 12. They could land a small security detail at the embassy, but not the battle-ready forces they had brought. In exchange, Xerix would form a joint security commission to address Earth's concerns about their personnel. Using knowledge of Earth bureaucracy and Xerixian tradition, Taehyun crafted a solution that protected Xerix's resources while giving Earth face-saving concessions. He reminded the admiral that escalation would trigger automatic reviews of all Earth mining licenses on Xerix. "The mining consortium doesn't want that kind of scrutiny," Taehyun said pointedly. "Not after what we've discovered about their operations in the Sacred Valleys." The admiral's eyes narrowed. "What exactly did you discover, Consort?" "Enough to begin criminal proceedings under both Earth and Xerixian law." Would Earth Command like those details to become public? Finally, the admiral agreed to the compromise. 10 of the Earth ships would withdraw. The situation had been diffused. When the communication ended, the command center erupted in the clicking sounds that served as Xerixian applause. General Dury approached and performed a military salute that Taehyun had never received before. "You understand strategy, Consort," she said with new respect in her voice. Later that evening, Taehyun stood with Queen Korra on the palace balcony, watching the sunset turn the sky deep purple. Most of the Earth ships had already departed, visible only as tiny points of light ascending into space. "Ambassador Chen has been recalled to Earth," Korra informed him. "It seems your former superiors are displeased with your loyalty to Xerix." "I expect so," Taehyun said. "They thought I would be their puppet." "And yet you are not my puppet either," the Queen observed. "You sought a solution that protected both worlds." "The best solutions usually do," he replied. "War between Earth and Xerix would destroy everything we've built." Queen Cora turned to face him. Her scales glowed the rare blue of deep emotion, a color few humans had ever seen on a Xerixian. "When our ceremonial bond was formed," she said softly, "I saw it as a diplomatic necessity, a fortunate accident that would strengthen our position with Earth." Tahian smiled. "And I was terrified." Yes, her mandibles clicked in what he now recognized as amusement. "But you have grown into your role with unexpected skill." She extended one of her primary limbs and gently touched his face. The gesture was intimate by Xerixian standards. "You have become more than a political accident," she said softly. Taehyun covered her hand with his own. Their differences, 5 fingers to her 3, warm skin to cool scales, no longer seemed strange or foreign. They simply were. "So have we," he replied. As the last Earth ship disappeared from view, Taehyun realized that his accidental marriage had become the most meaningful relationship of his life, and perhaps the most important diplomatic bond between two worlds. The new human Xerixian Cultural Center gleamed in the morning light. Its architecture blended both worlds. Curved Xerixian biostructures flowed into straight human lines. Living walls pulsed beside steel and glass. The building itself was a harmony of two different species' visions. Taehyun adjusted his formal attire, royal Xerixian colors with human styling. 2 years had passed since his accidental marriage to Queen Cora. What had begun as a diplomatic disaster had transformed into something no one could have predicted. "Nervous?" asked Minji, now his chief advisor rather than his handler. "A little," Taehyun admitted. "This center means a lot to both our worlds." Outside, thousands gathered for the inauguration ceremony. Humans and Xerixians stood side by side, something rarely seen before Taehyun's marriage. Children from both species played together in specially designed areas. Queen Cora emerged from her preparation chamber. Her royal scales shimmered with ceremonial patterns. She wore a modified version of traditional regalia, adjusted to incorporate elements of Korean formal wear, a tribute to Taehyun's heritage. "The people await us, consort," she said. Her translator was unnecessary now. Taehyun had learned enough Xerixian language to understand her directly. They walked together onto the ceremonial platform. The crowd's reaction was immediate, human cheers mixed with Xerixian clicking sounds of approval. Taehyun looked out at the sea of faces. Earth diplomats who had once considered him a liability now treated him with respect. Xerixian nobles who had doubted him now sought his counsel. The Southern Hive, once hostile, had become their strongest allies after Taehyun helped negotiate fair mining practices. "Today marks a new chapter in our shared history," Queen Cora began, her words translated for the human visitors. "This cultural center will be a place where our peoples learn from each other, grow together, and build a future that honors both our traditions." As she spoke, Taehyun reflected on their journey, the awkward first months of their marriage, the assassination attempt that had brought them closer, the mining crisis that tested his loyalties, the near war with Earth that had been averted through diplomacy. Each challenge had strengthened their bond. What began as political necessity had grown into genuine partnership, then into something deeper. After the Queen finished her remarks, it was Taehyun's turn to speak. He stepped forward, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. "When I first came to Xerix, I was afraid of becoming lost between worlds," Taehyun told the assembled crowd. "Instead, I found that standing between worlds is exactly where I belong." He spoke of the lessons both species had taught each other, how human adaptability complemented Xerixian tradition, how Earth medicine had been improved by studying Xerixian biology, and how Xerixian architecture had evolved through human influence. "Our differences are not barriers," he continued. "They are bridges. What we do not understand today, we will learn tomorrow. What seems alien now will become familiar. This is the promise of our union, not just between Queen Cora and myself, but between our worlds." The crowd responded with enthusiasm. Young Xerixians displayed scale patterns mirroring human fashion. Human children attempted Xerixian greeting cliques with varying success. After the public ceremony, Taehyun and Korra toured the new facility. Art galleries displayed works from both worlds. Libraries contained knowledge from Earth and Xerix. Laboratories were equipped for joint research projects. In a private moment between official meetings, Queen Korra led Taehyun to a secure area of the center. The door sealed behind them, ensuring complete privacy. "There is something I must show you," she said. The room contained a single stasis chamber, glowing with soft blue light. Inside, Taehyun could see what appeared to be a developing embryo, but unlike any he had seen before. "The genetic engineers have completed their work," Korra said privately. "Our hair will carry both our genetic codes, the first of their kind." Taehyun stared in wonder at the tiny being. It showed characteristics of both species, the beginning structure of Xerixian sensory ridges, but with human-like limb formation. "Is it healthy?" he asked, emotion making his voice unsteady. "Yes. The development proceeds exactly as planned. In 6 months, our child will be ready to emerge." Taehyun placed his hand against the chamber. The idea of fatherhood had seemed impossible when he married an alien queen. Yet here was proof that the impossible could become reality. "Boy or girl?" he asked. Korra made the clicking sound of Xerixian amusement. "Neither and both. Our child will express characteristics of both genders, as is common among my people. They will choose their gender identity when they mature." "What will we name them?" "I thought we might honor both our traditions," she said, "a Xerixian first name and a human family name." Later that evening, they held a small private dinner for the most important guests. Earth's new ambassador raised a glass in toast. "To the royal couple whose accidental marriage has brought more progress than 100 intentional treaties," he said. Minister Laz, once Taehyun's harshest critic in the royal council, clicked her mandibles in agreement. "The stars aligned when you mistook a wedding for a greeting. Human," she said with what Taehyun now recognized as affection. As the dinner proceeded, Taehyun marveled at how drastically his life had changed. Once a minor diplomat, he now helped govern an alien world. Once alone in the universe, he now had a partner who saw through different eyes, but shared the same vision. And soon, they would have a child who embodied the union of their species. When the formal speeches concluded, Queen Korra rose to give final remarks. Usually, her words would be translated by her device. But tonight, she set the translator aside. She had been practicing in secret. The room fell silent as the queen began to speak in careful, accented human language. "Friends of Earth and Xerix," she said, the human words strange but clear from her alien mouth. "We thank you for witness this day." Taehyun felt a surge of pride. He knew how difficult human speech was for Xerixian vocal structures. Queen Korra's translator was silent as she continued in carefully practiced human words. "Together, we build bridge between stars." The simple sentence carried profound meaning. Everyone in the room understood the effort it represented, not just the Queen's personal effort to learn human speech, but the effort of 2 worlds to understand each other. Taehyun smiled at his queen. His greatest diplomatic blunder had become the galaxy's greatest diplomatic triumph, and his greatest personal joy. That night, as they stood on the palace balcony looking at the stars, Taehyun thought about the strange path that had brought him here. One mistranslated ceremony, one accidental marriage, one chance to change the relationship between 2 worlds. "Do you ever regret it?" Korra asked, sensing his reflective mood. "The accident that bound us together." Taehyun took her hand, feeling the cooled scales against his warm skin. Above them, ships from Earth and Xerix moved peacefully in shared orbits. "It was the best mistake I ever made," he said.